Hello. Welcome to Stream Stealers. I'm Mark Pikert, editor-in-chief of Playbill, and this is the twice-a-week series where I get to talk to amazing film and TV people who have a background in theater that you may or may not have known about. It's always fun when you had no idea that Kristen Bell was on Broadway twice in one season. And today, I'm so excited to bring in someone who's so fantastic off-Broadway and on Broadway. She's such a stage animal that when she started doing film and TV, I was like, God, she's so good at that too. Are you kidding me? Marin Ireland.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I feel like you never stop working, first of all.
It's been a little while though. I've had a few months off.
Oh, finally. Well, we all have.
No, I am definitely like a workaholic in the best sense of the word. I love it. I love being busy.
But what I love so much about your career is there is no moment where it's like, oh, she hasn't done theater for a while. Like, it's been a couple of years since she's done theater. You're constantly, it feels like every season you're doing something amazing off Broadway, and then you have either a regular role on a TV series or a juicy recurring role.
It's been definitely, part of the thing is people always like to ask, more often than not in like film and TV worlds, they like to ask like, what do you like to do more? Do you prefer film and TV or theater? And I'm always like, I can't like compare them. They're two different experiences. So to me, like I want to do, they complement each other. And like, I learn about doing the other one while I'm doing the other thing. So it's like, I start to crave the other experience. So that's part of why it's like, if I'm doing a TV show for 6 months, I start to crave being on stage again. And then the same thing, like after doing like a long run of a show, I'm like, oh, and I really want to have an experience of like digging into a scene for like a full day and then putting it aside for good. Like I start to crave I just crave it. So it is sort of by design a little bit when I'm lucky and I can choose. Yeah.
Well, and your new project, which launches tomorrow on Netflix, is season 2 of The Umbrella Academy, which is a word that I had to unlearn from Texas.
Oh, umbrella?
Where I came to New York, and they're like, what? You need a what? And I was like, an umbrella. I need an umbrella. And they're like, that's not what?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea that I had an accent on that word. So The Umbrella Academy, which is season 2, and you are joining. And I mean, look, it's a Netflix series. We don't need to try to get spoilers out of you. Yes. I know better. But I'm obsessed with the fact that you play a Texas mother named Sissy.
Yeah, that's pretty cute. I wear some amazing clothes. I'm truly amazing.
So what decade are you in?
I think I can say this because this has been out on their social media, that we're in 1960s, or in the early 1960s in Dallas, Texas. And so I get to wear some amazing clothes. There's some crinolines. We got some little tiny bows on my little shirts with the dachshunds on it. We got some cute little cardigans. It's really cute. My hairdo is amazing. A little tiny beehive. She is on a farm, so she's not like a city girl. So she's not, but she tries. She wants to be an elegant woman. I will say it was funny. I was not on the Umbrella Academy train when I got this like offer came through. I didn't know it. I hadn't watched it. I'm really bad about watching things a lot, especially I think I was working a lot in TV the last few years, and sometimes it just sort of feels like it's like that feeling when you have like, oh God, there are too many shows I have to catch up, too many theater shows I have to see, or whatever it is. So like I get really behind really easily. So I was very behind. I was like, what's this thing? And I started watching it, and I was like, there's a talking monkey. He's wearing a 3-piece suit. He like has a pocket. Like I don't know. It might be like, check please. But then I had talked to Ellen Page already about it because I'd worked with her in the show a lot. And I didn't know her before. We'd met each other once I was like signing on. And I was like, Ellen, this show with this monkey, I don't know. And she was like, stick with it. And the show, I don't know if you know it at all, but it really like evolves into something very, very intense. And then I like kind of couldn't get enough of it. And so it was a real thrill. It was a real thrill to like join in. I've never done that before where I like show up and I was in like every episode of the second season, like a show that already exists and has a fan base, and to have like the fans be super excited about my character. Like I'd never been in that scenario before. I've only been at the things either jumping in the beginning or like a little thing here and there, It was a thrill. It's a thrill. They've got a really kind of like sweet and passionate, incredible like fan base. That's like, the show means a lot to people.
Well, and also what must have made it so much easier to jump into season 2 of this is season 1 splintered everyone. And so it's not coming into a really tight knit group and being like, hey, can I sit with you guys? No.
We always joked that like me and Ellen were like shooting a little indie movie in the middle of like the Avengers. Like we're like everybody else, like, cause they're doing like action scenes, the green screen. And then we come down and we're just like sitting on the couch, having like a chat, like whatever. So I'd be like, I don't know what this show is, but I'm like in this little independent movie with Ellen set in Texas in the 60s. And it's like really cute. So exactly. That was my experience.
I love that. So, I mean, you've been working so much in film and TV. What was your first TV project where you're like, oh my God, I really love this. And this is like sharpening and honing stuff for me in ways I hadn't expected.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time, it was such little one-offs that it's exactly that feeling where I was like, this just feels like I'm going on a roller coaster. It doesn't feel like I'm doing acting at all. And then when I got this show, this short-lived show called The Divide that Tony Goldwyn created with Richard LaGravenese, the two of them, Tony had worked with the Innocence Project when he did this movie Conviction with Hilary Swank and Sam Rockwell. And so he'd always wanted to do a show about it. And we made this show, and my character in the pilot was like a supporting but a regular character, was like a law student. And then when we went to series, they sort of rejiggered the whole thing, and they wanted to focus the show around my character. So it was the first time I was a regular on a show, and suddenly the show was about me. And it was set at the Innocence Project. And it was like Clark Peters and Chris Bauer and Ann Dowd. And these like amazing actors were in it. It was because it was run by Tony, basically, who's a theater guy and an incredible human being. Me and a couple of the other actors, Paul Schneider, who was also working at the Innocence Project, we interned at the Innocence Project here in New York for like a couple months leading up to it. It meant so much to me, like the show, what we were doing, we were saying, we took it extremely seriously. And the experience of being on that set and in that group, I was like, oh, this is like a company. This is genuinely like a company. I know how to be here. I know how to collaborate in this world. I know how to collaborate with writers and like build this world together. I feel like the same joy I feel when we're working together on a project in a rehearsal room. It can be like this. And it really spoiled me because I have to say, because everybody was so open and sharing and giving, and we were all together. And there's a lot of times when you don't really have that relationship with writers. A lot of times writers are in LA and you're shooting in New York and you don't really get to talk to them directly. So that really was, I was lucky that it was my first time as a regular on a show because it kind of set that bar high for me. And I was like, it can be different than this. Like, can I talk to the writer about this? Can we just like collaborate about it? Like, it can feel really like we're making it together in the way that I love about theater. That gave me such hope. And it's beautiful when that happens. It's rare, I think, but beautiful.
And then you were ready to deal with that jerk Damian Lewis when Homeland came around.
Yeah, I know. Although I never saw any of them talk about an indie movie in the middle of a bigger show. Me and Mandy used to see that too. I was like, we're making an independent movie about this guy, Saul, and a woman he arrests. Like, that could be like a little, what was like that movie, Nebraska? Is that the one, the Alexander Payne, where it's just like the road trip? It's like that. I felt like we were just shooting. I saw Claire once in hair and makeup. I never saw anybody else. It was just me and Mandy every day shooting in like the cornfields. You know what I mean? In like Charlotte, North Carolina. And it was such an incredible experience because of that, but it felt like we were shooting like a 2-person independent film. It was truly heaven.
I need someone to take all of your scenes from these series and just cut together a small independent movie. With
like, when they do it, like where they like re-score it to like give us a score of another. Yeah. Somebody, anyone who's out there in the internet and has some free time.
We've got the time. Someone make this happen. I would watch the hell out of that.
That would be really, at least there's got to be enough to make like a teaser for a fake movie, about like Saul and Eileen. Yeah, for sure. That'd be really good.
So there are so many stage credits, and I want to talk about all of them. I'm not going to do that to you. But there's a moment that I think about a lot in After Miss Julie.
Oh my goodness.
Where you were on stage alone for what seems like 5 full minutes of complete silence. It could not possibly have been 5 full minutes.
It was a long time.
It was a very long time. And you were acting for the gods in the best way possible.
Oh, that makes you feel so good. That's such a scary thing. That moment was so scary. I feel like I never wanted to do it. I feel like we'd get to that in rehearsal and I'd just be like, so Mark, let's just like talk about this part. So like, what am I going to do? Like, this feels weird. And he'd be like, just whatever you feel. And I'm like, I feel like doing nothing. Like, it was just so scary, you know, and you're like, this is going to look stupid. And then you're like moving around, you're trying to figure out your things. It just was one of those things that like in a rehearsal hall was very hard to feel like it could be anything. And it wasn't until the audience was actually there that like, and it sounds so dumb, like obviously, and yet there are some moments that you feel more humiliated in a rehearsal room than in front of 900 people, right?
Oh, well,
right?
especially, I mean, once you get on that set, that giant like country house kitchen set.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that though. That's amazing. It definitely becomes things like that though, that in rehearsal you hate, like that became one of my favorite parts for sure. It was an experience unlike any other I've ever had on the stage. You get to have like a moment or two sometimes, but that was a full experience. And like, it's a sensation you never have on stage ever. Like that sitting, just sinking into something where you're not like doing something, you're not actively, you're sort of existing in that space in that character's own personal tempo and rhythm. And like, it was a huge gift for me. And it was something I've never experienced since. And I think it taught me a lot about what's possible in terms of existing in time and space on stage, like for sure.
What was it like going back to the stage for the first time after doing like The Divide or any long running stint in a TV show?
You know, one of the things that I learned from TV, or that I'm reminded from TV, is that you don't know what's coming next, actually. In a TV show, you don't know what's going to be in the next script. You don't know if they're going to, when you maybe you learned your lines, you show up to set and they decided to cut half the scene, or they tell you in the second take, could you say that line but without the first half of the sentence? You know, like you have to just be so much in the actual moment of where you are and what you're trying to do, that the story that you're telling has to be flexible enough and elastic enough that you can sort of find your way in the actual moment. And that to me is a great degree of freedom to remember, to bring back, that like all of those things that we think we have to like backload in a play, like, but if I don't drop this in here, like how will they know by this other scene that I hate her, you know? And like the fact that like for instance with Homeland, I didn't know for sure that I was a terrorist until a few episodes in, because they were still figuring it out. Also because the director of the first episode I was in, they're not going to tell him. He can't know. That's all top secret. So I'm asking this guy, like, our first episode is like 2 lines. And I'm like, me and the other guy, Omid, who was playing my husband, we're like, are we He's like, I'm not sure. So let's do a few different versions. And the relief of that, of like, oh, great. Then they'll cut it together. And then it's not like I had to, I'm sure people watching it later are like, wow, she really pretended not to be a terrorist so well. But like, what a great, you know what I mean? But what a great lesson to not have to be like, how do I like put that secret in her eye? You know, like, no, just play what's in front of you. Just play what's in front of you. And so to me, like in a rehearsal room a lot, especially working on new plays, which I do more of than any other really, is like, it doesn't just play what's in front of you. Just like go for it. You'll learn something. You'll make a mistake. Just do the thing. Don't worry about kind of backloading all of these things. Just make the choice right now. That's all we have. You can if you could only do it 2 times, just try it. You know, like, so that's a great lesson for me in that way, and like looking for that kind of elasticity and not overthinking, because it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve me on a set, at least.
Well, God, that's just a good life lesson.
What did you say? I lost you for
That's just a good life lesson.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yes. Don't overthink anything, I guess.
Just play what's in front of you.
Play what's in front of you. Exactly. That's what they say, right? In like cognitive therapy, right? It's like, is it happening right now? No. You know, like, is it happening today? Is it happening right now? Then don't worry about it. Like, just focus on right this very second what's happening in front of you.
But you also just mentioned something else I wanted to bring up, which is you
Therapy.
tend to do a talking monkey.
Yeah.
Let's dig into the talking monkey.
Let's dig in. Yeah.
You mostly do new shows.
Yeah.
And what is the draw for a new show to you?
You know, and I was a theater student. I think I only could imagine the classics, right? So I was always like, have my list of classical roles that I wanted to play. And then when you get to New York, and those aren't being produced in New York very much, and the choices become down as you kind of evolve in your career. It's like, well, do I want to do Taming of the Shrew out of town or this brand new play at Rattlestick? And then you sort of start making choices about like what feels more exciting to you. And when I was a little kid, I was super shy. I still am. And I just read all the time alone in my room. So like writers and the actual written work, like the act of writing and creating the thing is something that I was always in total awe of. So once I finally got to be in a room with playwrights who created these things that I was then working on, that like reverence for me is something that's hard to recreate with any other scenario. And being in a room with somebody, getting to actually speak with them about the thing that they created, that just holds a really special, place for me in my sense of the world as something that carries wonder and magic. It's like, I can't believe they do this. They're magicians and wizards. And I've gotten over the years to sort of think of my old list of dream roles as maybe, okay, well, if I don't actually get to do a lot of those classical things, ultimately, if those don't happen for me, maybe I can think of them as like templates, like, oh, well, I wanted to play a role like that, where somebody gets to do this, besides, of course, the beauty of the actual language and getting to speak that language. Because I do think that speaking some language is like incantation, and it changes your cells, people who do a lot of some things, it really does actually change you. So if I don't get to do that, that is sad. But also, sometimes you can think of it like templates, like if I don't get to do, but for me, the feeling of a new play and being in a room with a writer who built this world and getting to sort of participate in that, that's something I kind of revere above all else, I guess.
So were you a Nancy Drew fan growing up?
I wasn't as big a Nancy Drew fan, but I will say that this is just because this is happening these days, but I was a huge Babysitter's Club fan.
Yep.
Huge.
Huge. Obsessed. I read them all.
Me too, like more than one time. And then I didn't watch any of the other versions of that. Have you been watching the new one?
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's genius that they've translated it to modern day, but kept
That
everything.
they handle some of these things. I am like, they're handling some of these topics better than like any show I've ever seen.
Oh my, yes. And it's such proof that it's so effortless to address these topics with a deft touch.
Yes.
Without being preachy or hitting you over the head with a hammer. And it's so lovely. And I'm so happy that exists. Thank God for Rachel Shukert.
Yeah, and then in many ways, it's easier, actually, I think, to talk about it with and like via like kids. Like everyone's always worried about like kids handling certain topics. And you're like, actually, kids can handle all this shit in some ways better than we can. And like, if we like have them handle it for me, I was like, oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Like, I feel like some of these topics I've been on shows where it's like, how do we bring this up? And it's like, oh, actually, it doesn't seem like a tough thing at all. They're modeling something so beautifully for all of us.
Yeah.
Really, but yeah, that's like a super huge nostalgia thing. I was big into Babysitter's Club.
So which babysitter did you identify with most?
Well, it changed, right? For me, at least. I mean, like, like sometimes, I mean, it's very like Sex and the City in that way, where you're like, sometimes I'm more of a this. I mean, like, probably the babysitter that I was actually the most like was Marianne. The babysitter right? But then I wanted to be the most like Claudia. And then in my dream ones, I was like, maybe I'm like Dawn. I grew up in Southern California. So I was like, maybe I'm like really open and accepting and like cool, but I was not like that. But I think I wanted to be Claudia, but I was really a Marianne.
I was fully a Marianne who wanted to be a Stacy.
Which one? Wait, which one?
Wanted to be Stacy.
Yeah, I was gonna say Stacy and Claudia are full on the aspirational ones. Yeah.
And I was obsessed with Claudia's hollowed out books where she would hide her candy bars.
Yes. Yes.
All I wanted was a hollowed out book to hide my candy cigarettes in. I don't even know what I would have put in there as like a 10-year-old.
I love it. I think I remember actually having dreams of like hollowing out, like that seemed like the coolest thing, and like where would you even get that? And like that just seems super cool. Yeah.
Yes. Babysitters Club for life.
Babysitters Club for life. Babysitters Club. Yeah. Really good.
All right, we are running out of time. So final two questions.
Possible. Yes.
Are there any groups or charities that you wanted to draw attention to right now?
Yes, sure. I mean, other than Movement for Black Lives, which of course right now, which is great, and you donate to them, they can also disperse the funds to who needs it the most. So that's just like a great place to start. But also the Ali Forney Center is very close to my heart for homeless LGBTQ youth, and they help transitions, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. And the other place is TGI Justice, which is it's a group of transgender, gender variant, intersex people, and inside and outside of prisons and jails, detention centers, creating a family. So that's TGI Justice and Ali Forney are two places in particular, besides Movement for Black Lives, which may get some attention these days on its own. But those two places are places that are very close to my heart.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And then the final question, which we've already semi-addressed, is what have you been watching in quarantine?
BSC. But also Call My Agent. Do you watch that?
Yeah, great. That's a great one.
Started watching that. I rewatched The Comeback classic. That was a big one. I've been reading a ton. I couldn't watch anything for a while. I did read War and Peace in quarantine as part of an online book club, which I am very proud of. It was part of it took 3 months. We all read 15 pages a day. It was run by this group, website called The Public Space. So for a while I couldn't watch anything, like watching things, like I was too distracted. So I could actually read. So I read some stuff. And then lately I can watch TV again, and it's been all about the BSC and that's it pretty much. That's been my deep dive.
I discovered Halt and Catch Fire on Sunday.
Oh.
I have not stopped watching Halt and Catch Fire since Sunday. So
nice.
What is today? Today is Thursday. I have watched 3 full seasons.
Fantastic.
I am on episode 6 of season 4. I only have 4 episodes left.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to start over again. It's so good. It was one of those slow burn series of the early aughts or the early 2010s where it was like, oh, I don't really know.
I know. Oh, but wait, also I May Destroy You. Have you watched that?
I'm saving. I'm waiting until it's all released, and then
I'm
just going to.
You're smart, because I watched them all, and then now I'm just like, when's the next one? You were smart. Because that was the last time. So I had waited. I thought it was long enough, and it wasn't. It wasn't nearly enough, because then I watched whatever was 6 or 7 in a row, and then I was like, where are the rest of them? So yes, that was the other one that I went deep into. It's intense.
And last weekend I did all 4 seasons of Insecure.
Oh, see, yes. Oh my God!
So good.
Good ones. You're really good at it.
Well, it's Platinum Age TV.
Platinum. Yes, very good. Very good.
Marin Ireland, thank you so much for joining me today.
Mark, you say my name properly. I love it. How beautiful.
I did my research before.
You did. I love it.
Guys, Umbrella Academy or Umbrella Academy.
Whichever you like. It's set in Texas, so you can say however you want.
You really can. Yeah. Drops tomorrow on Netflix, season 2. Check it out. And tune in next week for another episode of Stream Stealers. All right. Goodbye.
Thanks so much. Thank you.